Everybody's doing it. AP News. Maine bars Trump from ballot as U.S. Supreme Court weighs state's authority to block former president. Oh, yeah, why not? I mean, Colorado attempted to do it. We'll get back to that in a minute. But listen to this. Secretary of State Shenna Bellows speaks at an event January 4th, 2023 in Augusta, Maine. Bellows on Thursday, December 28th, removed former President Donald Trump from the state's presidential primary ballot under the Constitution's insurrection clause, becoming the first election official to take action unilaterally in a decision that has potential electoral college consequences. Why not? Colorado did it. Other states are talking about doing it. So, I mean, it seems to be the new norm now in politics, these extreme measures to prevent people that, regardless. The decision by Secretary of State Shenna Bellows follows a ruling earlier this month by the Colorado Supreme Court that booted Trump from the ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. That decision has been stayed until the U.S. Supreme Court decides whether Trump is barred by the Civil War era provision, which prohibits those who engaged in insurrection from holding office. Bellows found that Trump couldn't run for his prior job because his role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol violated Section 3, which bans from office those who engaged in insurrection. Bellows made the ruling after some state residents, including a bipartisan group of former lawmakers, challenged Trump's position on the ballot. I do not reach this conclusion lightly, Bellows wrote in her 34-page decision. I am mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a presidential candidate of ballot access based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I am also mindful, however, that no presidential candidate has ever before engaged in insurrection. Legal experts said that Thursday's ruling demonstrates the need for the nation's highest court, which has never ruled on Section 3, to clarify what states can do. Now, with that in mind, let's jump over to this article from CBS News. Trump back on ballot in Colorado while state Republicans appeal ban to Supreme Court. The Colorado Republican Party on Wednesday appealed that state Supreme Court decision that found former President Donald Trump is ineligible for the presidency, the potential first step to a showdown at the nation's highest court over the meaning of a 155-year-old constitutional provision that bans from office those who engaged in insurrection. The first impact of the appeal is to extend the stay of the 4-3 ruling from Colorado's highest court, which put its decision on pause until January 4th, the day before the state's primary ballots are due to the printer, or until an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court is finished. Trump himself has said he still plans to appeal the ruling to the nation's highest court as well. Then it goes on to say, Colorado's Secretary of State Jenna Griswold said Thursday that with the appeal filed, Trump will be included as a candidate on the state's primary ballot unless the U.S. Supreme Court declines to hear the case or upholds the state's Supreme Court's ruling. The U.S. Supreme Court has never ruled on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was added after the Civil War to prevent former Confederates from returning to government. It says that anyone who swore an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection against it cannot hold government office. The Colorado High Court ruled that applies to Trump in the wake of his role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol intended to stop the certification of President Biden's victory in the 2020 presidential election. It was the first time in history that the provision was used to block a presidential contender's campaign. The Colorado Supreme Court has removed the leading Republican candidate from the primary and general ballots, fundamentally changing the course of American democracy, the party's attorney wrote Wednesday. The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to take the case either after the Colorado GOP appeal or Trump's own appeal. If Trump ends up off the ballot in Colorado, it would have minimal effect on his campaign because he doesn't need the state, which he lost by 13 percentage points in 2020 anyway, to win the electoral college and the presidential election. But it could open the door to courts or election officials striking him from the ballot in other must-win states. Interesting. Yeah, I see this getting worse before it gets better. And let's take a look at a list of states attempting to take Trump off the ballots. Newsweek. 3 hours ago. Let's take a look at this. Breaking news as well. You're watching ESN, IC News. Let's jump over real quick to Newsweek. All the states trying to kick Trump off the ballot. Lawsuits seeking to remove Trump from the 2024 ballot are currently pending in 14 states, according to data compiled by Lawfare. Arizona, Alaska, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, South Carolina, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Several of the challenges have been initiated by John Castro, a lesser-known Republican candidate vying for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination. Also, 2 separate lawsuits have been filed in the state of New York, one from Castro in Manhattan Court and another from Jerome DeWald, a Republican attorney. Castro, who originally filed challenges in dozens of states, argues in his lawsuit that Trump is ineligible to run under the 14th Amendment. The Texas attorney also claimed that he will suffer irreparable competitive injuries in states like Alaska if the former president is allowed to run. So, folks, stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. As soon as we find out, you're going to find out because we're going to share with you here at ESN IC News. Stay tuned.